So I'm going to give a pep talk to someone who asked me to give them some wise words or tips to remain hopeful in light and in face of all of the constant chaotic news that's angst-driven, that causes anxiety, stress, overwhelm, fatigue, and just despair and hopelessness. And every once in a while, I like to do these little pep talks to my community and members. And today's pep talk is an analogy. I usually try to draw an analogy that a lot of people can relate to in order to kind of visualize another space and time when we're past this administration. And the analogy I like to draw today is to think of the Trump administration and Donald Trump as the high school or middle school bully. Now, a lot of people have heard this analogy before and called them bullies, but let's take that a little bit step further. What do we know about the middle school or high school bully? It's one of the things they like to do is use their brawn and might to sort of physically intimidate other people. Because a lot of times the bullies, usually sometimes it's the jock, I know it's a stereotype, but they're not that smart. They're not that bright. Now think about Donald Trump and his sycophants, his cabinets, not the brightest bunch. However, they do have the brawn and might of the United States military. He has the tools and resources that are at his disposal as the president and as weaning and being able to wield the office of the executive, which is the White House, the president, all the resources. So that's what the bully does. And what do they do with that? They go in physically. The bully physically attacks people in the hallways, beats them up, bounces them up to the lockers, and physically, and you see the Department of Homeland Security, ICE agents, and they physically beat up the ones that are probably the new kid in the block, the new kid to the school, the immigrants, the migrants, those that they feel like they don't have that many friends, or those that feel like the people are not necessarily looking out for their best interests or care if they get beat up. So that is what Homeland Security, ICE, and Border Patrol are doing. The bully also takes people's lunch money and use it for himself. Donald Trump and his administration, Russell Vogt, have been infamously revoking and taking and stopping grants and money that was already allocated to people and stopping, essentially getting people's money. A lot of people during the SNAP fiasco last December said that Donald Trump stole the money. And I don't agree, don't believe that, but that's fine if you believe that. That's something that the bully does. It steals people's money. And the bully's antics aren't limited to just the school that they're in or their neighborhood. They also go to other neighborhoods where other people reside and kids who don't go to their school, and they steal their money. Think of Donald Trump invading, taking the president of Venezuela, and then stealing their oil and then auctioning it off or giving it away to one of his mega donors. So the bully doesn't necessarily just bully in their neighborhood. They bully in other neighborhoods. They bully in other schools. They're essentially a tyrant. Now, here's a good thing that you can think about in terms of this administration and the timeline. Time is not necessarily linear. Time is not necessarily straight. There are pressure points. Right now, the Trump administration is feeling the pressure points of just a lot of things going on. It's chaotic, and so they're spiraling out of control. Why? Because graduation is coming. As we get closer and closer to graduation, a lot of the bullies, they realize they're in trouble because this is it. Everyone they used to bully is going to move on with their lives. They're going to forget about them. They kind of peak in high school. It doesn't have the same effect. Everyone else who they used to bully, everyone else in school, they've moved on. They're preparing for the next step. They may go to college. They may decide to join their father's business. They may join the military. They may actually go to military school or perhaps become an apprentice and hope perhaps the tailor that's looking to resign will leave his clients and everything up to him. They may actually go all in on their part-time job in hopes of becoming a manager. There are different paths to people, but they're moving forward. The bully is stuck there where he is. Now, you might see the bully in town once in a while after we've already graduated and moved forward. And usually, sometimes the bully tries to bring up that thing that used to really hurt you and make you feel bad. And because they know those little points, they know your insecurities and they pick at it. But at this stage, you're a little bit more mature. Those words don't hurt as much. You've moved past it. You've got a partner, or you've got a cat, or you've got a future, or you've got prospects, or your eyes on the prize on getting a raise or getting a promotion or going to grad school, and you're moving on with your life forward. So anything that the bully says or does or tries to do to get a rise out of you just doesn't have the same effect because you're kind of like over them. So I feel like that is where we are in the stage with the Trump administration. It's been a full year. We know his tricks. We know what he does normally, and it's the same old song and dance. I'm JJ Legal. If you don't know me, if this is the first time you see me, one of the things I do is monitor the lawsuits that are filed against the Trump administration after it does something unlawful. And those the Trump administration filed against others to take you beyond the headlines and see what happens next, because a lot of people don't know what's happened next. And one of the things I discover is a lot of times they get pulled back. He has a 75% loss rate. A lot of things they try to do, they cannot do legally. When I say they can't do it, a lot of people say, yeah, but they're ignoring the law and they're doing it anyway. Yes, that's true. However, eventually at some point, they obfuscate, they hem and haw, and they delay, and they try to avoid accountability, and they play in the judges' faces. But ultimately, in my experience, they pull websites back. They return funding. Sometimes they do bring people back that they've accidentally deported. They abide by the judge's decisions ultimately, eventually, and usually all the time at some point, unless there's appeals and the Supreme Court lets them off the hook. But to the extent that there's judges' orders, they eventually do abide by all of them. And I say that to let you know that that is something that happens routinely. And because it happens routinely, I know that they aren't necessarily winning. And I know all of the tricks, and I see the patterns. The pattern is that they will try to not follow process, whether it's due process, giving someone the rights, giving them access to a lawyer, letting them defend themselves against any allegations, or they also just don't follow the process in terms of revoking grants, or process in terms of revoking temporary protective status, or process of revoking someone's parole status, immigrant status against to be here, and they find old laws that aren't really applicable, like the Alien Enemies Act, that no longer apply and try to just sneak it in there. Or they try to send troops in without making sure they met all of the standards when you can actually send troops. When they do these things, traditionally, the people who are impacted will run to courts, and the courts will look at the law, and courts will look at the facts, and they will determine that there really is no basis for Donald Trump to send in troops, for example, or to revoke these grants, or to revoke this TPS status, and they will reverse it. And that's the thing that I see. That is the pattern that they always follow. And so I know their song and dance. I know they're a one-trick pony, and they repeat the same things over and over again. Even after numerous judges has told the Trump administration that he cannot impact elections, that he doesn't have the authority, it's up to the states, he continues to issue executive orders. Even though numerous judges have told the Trump administration you cannot punish and revoke grants that are irrelevant to immigration enforcement because you don't like the fact that sanctuary cities or sanctuary states are not helping your immigration enforcement, you do not have the authority to take away grants that have nothing to do with, especially grants that have already been allocated from Congress that actually are helping the American people or those cities. But they still file those lawsuits. They still sue those cities. After one city gets told, after they get kicked out of court for trying to sue Chicago, they went and sued New York. After a judge in New York said you can't do that, they went to sue another one, and then another one, and another one, and they can appeal. And they keep doing it. They keep smacking down and smack down and smack down. I call it the whack-a-mole administration. They don't learn their lesson. They just keep doing it over and over and over again. Donald Trump recently tried to revoke the TPS status. Or what did he try? Oh, he said he's going to revoke the TPS status of Somalis after he tried to do it for other cities and other jurisdictions in other countries and got back down each time. And he's given the very same rationale over and over again. That's why the federal judges are over it. They're not interested in giving him deference or giving the executive deference. That the Supreme Court said they're entitled to deference, meaning that they should yield, like the executive carry out their agenda. But at this point, a year now, we know he has no agenda. His economic policy is failing. He's not helping manufacturing. He's not bringing back jobs. He's crossing jobs. His net job gain in 1 year is 500,000, where Joe Biden's last year was something like 2 million. Inflation is going up. The cost of living is going up. The cost of housing is going up. The cost of childcare is going up. He's doing absolutely nothing to help people. Instead, he's just taking away rights, taking away benefits, taking away SNAP, taking away Head Start, taking away libraries, taking away museums, adding his name to stuff, building an ark in his name, building an East Wing, destroying our monuments, destroying the White House so he can build something in his name, and putting his name on the Kennedy Center, adding his name to coins, just trying to create a legacy, begging for the Nobel Peace Prize, nagging some woman till she comes and finally gives it to him. Looks pathetic. He looks pathetic. He does not care. Does do nothing for people. That is the bully. He's peaked already. He's on his way out. No one really cares. Everyone knows his song and dance. People are less scared of him, more pitying him. You would say you shouldn't pity a bully, but yes, because he's pathetic. And you know that he's on his way out. So I hope that makes you feel better. Share this video with other people. JJ Legal, each one teach one. Join my tribe if you're interested. Thanks so much for coming to my TED Talk.